Let's get it. Bulldogs in the house. What's going on, YouTube? Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Savage Studios. Go ahead and subscribe if you ain't subscribed. Hit that bell notification. It's a little icon, little shape of a bell right next to the subscribe button. That way you'll be notified of any future videos I got coming out. Hit that like button because I'm telling you, this one's a burner straight off the grill. Straight up, we talking about the Bulldogs. We talking about them dogs, man. It's like the unseen warrior in the shadows. You know, they put in a whole hell of a lot of work. They smash on anybody they can smash on. You know, of course they take casualties. Of course, you know, it's all is fair in war, right? Like, so who knows, you know, how many they lose, how many they win. The point being, they fight. They go at it. Now, I'm going to tell y'all right now, this ain't a video to glorify the Bulldogs. This ain't a video to glorify any prison gang. But over here on this channel, we give credit where it's due, right? Everybody talking about activities, right? This actual organization, this function, this faction, this entity, whatever it is they call themselves, this mystery, they were able to stop CDCR's hand in integration. They were able to stop CDC from continuing this onslaught of gladiator games. They were able to stop that. How were they able to stop that? Through going to war. Any chance they got, they went to war. Any chance they got, they rode on enemies. Any chance they... Why? You're probably asking yourself, why the hell is he so intrigued with the dogs? What is it about the dogs that's got him so intrigued? It's simple. For me, dropping out of the organization, or won't even say organization, dropping out of the car I was with, the car I was a part of, right? Because then you have organization, you know, that's a strong word. You don't want to use organization unless you was, you know, somewhere or up there, you know. So I'm gonna just say dropping out of the army that I was a part of, right? I had always felt like I was more of a, I was just more like a, I just wanted more freedom, right? I didn't like how they're answering up to the next person and running this crazy militant program. It's like I felt like I didn't go to prison for this kind of thing. Now, don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not saying that's any type of bad or that, you know, anyone who did that or does that is any less of a man. Nah, that's definitely not what I'm saying. Salute, tip my hat to you, because it takes a whole nother level of self-discipline to be able to do that and to be able to master that sort of calmness, to be able to be in like a militant type of situation. It was never really for me. However, that's not really the main issue of why I dropped out. It's just a reason of what I felt, right? The dogs, I like how they function, man. You know, they're on some street shit. You know, they go from the streets to the pen, and they don't really change up. They don't really change up the philosophy, the morals, the codes, right? These are soldiers going into the pen, understanding that they are an underdog. No pun intended. But they're an underdog. That 3-1, you know, it's 3-1. 3 for every one of them, right? Their history is lengthy. Their history has been battled. You know, the Bulldog mascot for them is very fitting. Very fitting. Because at the end of the day, that's what they had to be. They had to be rabid-ass Bulldogs. Crazy-ass Bulldogs. Drooling out the mouth, ready to go. In order to still survive after all these years. Because they broke off from the North first. If none of y'all didn't know that, they rode with the North first. And from what I heard, they broke off in around 84. I'm not too sure as to why. But they broke off. And if I'm wrong on that, feel free to correct me. You know, I always engage you. I always tell you to hit that comment section and engage me back. You know, let me know, educate me, so I'm not sitting here making a big buffoon of myself. But so after they broke off, time went by or whatnot, and I guess from what I was told, I guess the South, you know, started recognizing and probably respected the fact that they were able to branch off and break away from the North and do their own thing, you know, and just basically stick to themselves, you know, and it's how they did it, you know. It's like, it's one thing to kind of like be chased away, and it's another thing to break away, right, and stand your ground, stay where you're at. Go to war if war is necessary, because in prison it's almost always necessary. So I think the South started liking that, and they started functioning. And it got to a point to where the Bulldogs in the South were, you know, in riots together, you know, programming together, basically on the same kind of like on on that same bus with each other, having each other's back and rocking with each other. And I've even been told stories that some Bulldogs had 13.5 tattooed on them. So, once again, this may be a myth, this may be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong. Like I said, I'm always welcome to some educational stuff. So, what ended up happening with the South is that maybe the Dogs saw that this structure, this structure that was taking place was just a little too similar, a little too identical to another structure where they had just left. The one thing I respect about the Dogs is they don't really like that structure stuff. And that doesn't make them sloppy. It doesn't make them ignorant. It doesn't make them sloppy. It doesn't make them messy. It doesn't make them fools. It doesn't make them nothing. You see, for so long, a structure was something to people. A structure meant something to people, right? Now look at it. You desperately have people, urging their people to fight snitching, right? To fight snitches, to fight PCs, to battle the crisis of all the PCs and dropouts. And that alone shows you that your structure has a very big hole in it. If this is where we're at. If you have to, pretty much get on a social media platform to attack PCs, dropouts, whether it's 2-5, Northern Rider, anybody. If that's where you're at, period, there's a problem. Because back in the day, there was a time where it was pure accountability and there wasn't a DO out there on the streets who would come out and say he was a DO, let alone any type of gang member. There was a time where snitches really got stitches. I'm not saying they don't anymore. Every man is touchable. Every man can be touched. There's just not enough people anymore willing to die for a cause that they have no knowledge of what it stands for. It's hard to recognize and pinpoint a cause when you're just not educated no more because it got lost in translation. What's the translation it got lost in? It got lost in the fact that who knows who's good anymore. It got lost in the fact that probably every person watching this that is affiliated with any type of gangs has a family member or a homie who has a family member that is a dropout. You see, and the Bulldogs are not immune from this crisis, right? Because that's what it's being labeled. It's a crisis of, snitching being cool. People dropping out, right? Joining SNY gangs, right? This is all a crisis, right? It's like the Armageddon, World War III. The Bulldogs are not immune to this. In fact, I think they probably have a higher rate. And being in SNY myself, there's a lot of Bulldogs in SNY. And they have a whole new faction in SNY. The KTFs, the Cutthroat Familia. And, they tearing shit up. They just as rowdy as they were on the other side. They still don't have a structure. They still don't. And it's not a jab. It's not me taking a shot. It's not me mocking. Like I said, man, every man has an option to choose how he conducts himself, who he runs with, or what he does, right? I don't care what nobody thinks watching this video. I really don't care about any feedback, really. Because I know my intent. They say, well, why are you talking on prison stuff? I explained to you guys in my live the other day why I still do this, why I still talk about this. It's to really understand and see. I'm interested. I spent 10 years of my life in this world. So I'm sorry that when I get out, I tend to talk and discuss and ponder and wonder things about how things are going in there. Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of people that I really had love for in there. Lifers that ain't never getting out. There's a lot of relationships I built, a lot of friendships, a lot of bonds. I still write. I still keep in contact with a lot of people behind bars. So, although I'm out of prison, although I ain't going back to prison, I'm never going to say never. Because you don't know what happens. Anything could happen. Someone could do something to my son or one of my family members, and it's a wrap. I'm going back to prison for the rest of my life, and that's it. There ain't nothing to talk about at that point. It just is what it is. Miss me with the comments of like, stay positive. Until then, though, I am positive. Until then, though, I'm not going back. However, let's give everybody due credit. That's what this video is for with the Dogs. So, let's go back to the Dogs. So they're losing numbers. They're not made of metal. They're human like I'm human. They're human like you're human. Everybody's human on this planet. And that's what people seem to forget, right? They seem to think of that if they represent one faction or the other, that they're automatic RoboCop, superhuman, extra strength, all this. Nah, they losing numbers because they go into war. Over double-digit riots and brawls in this year alone. Behind this integration, peace, this attempt at peace treaty, right? The Dogs stopped it. Regardless, it was the Dogs who stopped it. Whether they won every fight or lost every fight, CDCR came out and named them. They dropped their name. They didn't drop no other one. They didn't drop the South. They didn't drop the North. They didn't drop PC gangs. They didn't drop whites, black. They dropped the Dogs name repeatedly, repeatedly, repeatedly. So I don't care who you are. I think that earns them a nice video, you know, giving them some credit, you know, because these active Bulldogs ain't about to get on YouTube. They ain't about to interview. And that's cool. I salute you and I respect you because they still in the field, right? Active means active, right? Activated, right? Being activated. That means in the field. That means putting in work. If you ain't in the field, dog, you ain't active. So I couldn't get one on YouTube. However, you know, I got communications with a few, you know, and they put me up on some things, you know, and that's why this video is coming about. And these are active dogs. So, and much respect to y'all. Y'all know who you are. Much respect to the dogs. At the end of the day, what's the end game, right? One thing I was told is that there's this big epidemic of drugs that goes in, right? And it's altering people's frame of mind, right? We've all known this. Anyone who's been to the pen knows this, right? Drugs behind the walls is so prevalent. I got another 5 years for selling. You know what I mean? I got popped for doing it. You know, I was hitting piece after piece after piece. Hey, by the way, man, I'm just looking at my ugly ass face right now. I got my tattoos lasered off, so if it looks like I'm, you know, Mr. Frankenstein or whatever, that's what all this is. I hit all this, except for her name, except for this SFV. That's it. Oh, I hit right here the homie name. You know what I mean? All that shit's gone. You know what I mean? And that's the third session. We got to pay for some more sessions. It hurt like hell. But yeah. Anyways, back to the dogs. So you mix that altered state of mind, right? That drug-induced state of mind, especially when you on crystal, right? Like anybody messing with Christina knows, man. That's where almost majority of all roll-up cases happen. They could be the solidest of the solid. That stuff will play with you, man. It'll just have you folding internally before you fold externally. So you mix that with their dilemma, right? The dogs are used to having their own yard, right? The dogs are used to having their own spots. They've been on yards, like I told you on my live yesterday. When I was in Corcoran back in 2013, I was in I want to say it was 3A04, which was AdSeg, the hole, at the time. And that yard, a yard, was active, level 4. Bulldogs, Crips, Bloods, Southerners, and I don't know if there was Northerners or not. I don't think that treaty was up in effect at that time. But they were programming the dogs with the South. Not mingling, but just, you know, coexisting, right? So I don't know what that one was about. And I don't know if it's happening on other yards, but I know like in Salinas and other certain places, they got their own yards. So they have a high intensity program when they hit the pen, right? Not only do they have to worry about slicing and slashing and stabbing on enemies, but I think from my knowledge of what I've learned, they whack each other more than anybody, right? Not because they're ordered to, not because it's a hit, not because some other man that you ain't even from the same hood as this fool sends you a wheeler telling you gotta do this. Nah, but because these fools come in off the streets and they just don't get along, right? This street don't like this street and so on and so forth. So these guys are in the pen going crazy on each other. It's like slash heaven for them. They're just going nuts. All of the count because they don't like each other. No one told them they had to do nothing. They don't play by those rules. They don't play by that whole hierarchy, which I salute. I respect that. So at the end of the day, what happens with the dogs? Do they relent? Are they growing in numbers? Are they losing numbers? What's happening? Someone told me, a dog told me, when they get out, if they PC up, when they get out, they're no good in the city, right? That's about the one thing that runs in common and aligns with the South and the North, I would say, is that if you PC up in the pen, you're no good on the streets. Cool. That's how the game goes, right? I'm no good in my hood. It is what it is. I mean, you ain't going to catch me dead. If I'm in my hood, it's for a special occasion. Put it that way. If you catch me in the projects, it's for a very special occasion. And most likely I'm going back to prison if that happens. But other than that, why would I know my place in society, gang culture, I know my place in gang society. I'm in Barstow. I mean, at the end of the day, it is what it is on that front. Ain't no one hiding. That's the one place I could go outside the PJs, right? A PJs would have been most likely a suicide mission, right? So people say, oh, why can't you? Why can't you? Ain't no one acting tough. Ain't no one acting hard. And I'm sure some of these dogs, they feel the same way. It's just, we got to get out. We got to still be men. We got to still understand that we're convicts, ex-convicts. And at the end of the day, I'm not scared of any men. I'm not scared of a man. I'm not scared of a fade. I'm not scared of none of that. I'm wise. I'm cautious, Ain't no one trying to get, noodled. And so the dogs, a lot of them are PCing up. A lot of them are dropping out. And I guess a lot of them are getting out. And I don't know if they go back to their city. I don't know if they're in their hoods. But if they're not, that poses a serious problem for Fresno dogs. I've heard that there was dogs outside of Fresno. I don't know how that works. This is going to be a part 1 because I really want to give a good, thorough, understanding, because Fresno's just not on the map. It's north, south, but where the fuck are the dogs? And how come ain't nobody talking about the dogs? You know what I mean? Like, they're the ones who's got it rocking. They got it rocking the most right now. They're the ones who is sticking true to who they are, not getting muscled, not being taxed. They don't tax nobody. There's no taxing hoods. They're not playing that stuff. These are people who stood their ground, right? It's reminiscent to gangs from the South that didn't pay taxes. Some of them folded and do, and then some of them still don't, I don't think. I don't know if Lowell started paying, but I don't even think they pay. So it's similar to that. One can only respect that. And especially respect the longevity, right? They managed to have longevity, right? The world is changing, people. The globe spins, and so does politics. So does governmental politics. So does prison politics. This ain't propaganda. I support no one or nothing but myself, my family, all you subscribers watching. I got love for all of y'all. This is all educational purposes. This ain't nothing but a video. If you listen to me and say, hey, I want to go look at the 2-5, maybe I want to join that, I don't want you watching me, because that's not what I'm trying to get across here. If you look at me and say, hey, I want to be a Bulldog, I don't want you watching me. I want to be a Sureño, don't watch me. I want to be a Norteño, don't watch me. If you look at this video and say, I don't want to go to prison, I want my son to watch this video because I don't want him to go to prison. I want all my friends to watch this video so they can know, so they can show their kids, so they don't go to jail or prison or juvenile hall. Watch this video. Period. I'm not going to advise that kids under 13 watch this video, because this ain't a child-friendly video or channel. Some videos are, but most of them aren't. It's a prison-related channel, right? This is my experience in life. As a man, I support men being men, families being families, and ties being ties, communities coming in stronger. What I think would be the best option here for the Fresno Bulldogs is to never, ever conform to any structure. And I don't need to tell y'all this. Y'all already know what's up. Y'all been holding it down, frontlining it the whole time. No structure, no hierarchy. Keep doing it the way y'all doing. But at the end of the day, sometime there's going to have to be a truce. Some kind of understanding. Some kind of something to where y'all could just understand that, look, I don't like your structure. I don't like your structure. We're not going to use your structure. I think you both know. Both sides of you know. I'm not using no structure. But we're going to be on these yards with you. Because my question to the dogs is, what happens if one day you wake up and they say, fine, you want your own yards? You got them. You don't want to run with, you don't want the south on the yard with you. You don't want the north on the yard with you. Cool. But we're going to go ahead and drop these PC signs by every one of you guys' doors. Because now you guys are no longer the majority. Or now you guys, screw majority. Now you guys are the new minority, right? You guys are less numbered than PC actually is. And PC's actually probably not even fighting the integration as much as you guys are. So we're going to let you have your way, but we're going to slap these stickers on your door. What would y'all do? If there's any dogs watching, what would you do if you woke up and that was the case? All the homies is like, yeah, throw a spread. We got the homies to ourselves, though. We don't got to worry about hanging out with none of these other clowns, Oh, what the hell are they doing? They bringing some signs in? Oh, tension in the block with the rope. Just letting you guys know. Or here goes a memo. Read this new memo. You guys are now considered S&Y inmates because you have sensitive needs, because you will not program on another yard with any other faction. I ain't saying this is going to happen, but it's a cool question to ask, because what the hell would y'all do if it did happen?